Hey everybody, how's it going? Sorry it's been a little while getting videos going. For whatever reason it's just hard to get back in the swing of it after you've had a prolonged break, but I'm trying my best here. I should have 2 or 3 videos going up here over the next few days, hopefully, once we get the editing done anyway. But what I'm doing right now is what I did with the Saturn. My top 10 Atari Jaguar games. Now, not the top 10 Atari Jaguar games of all time, just the top 10 Atari Jaguar games of the games that I own. Which was really fun getting the games out. This, if you got your channel or you've got these systems, you really should just do your own top 10 list, because pretty much what I do, I get the system out, I play every game I own for it. It's awesome just to get to sit and reminisce and play with things and remember games you kind of forgot about. It's just fun in that regard, regardless of whether you actually put a video up or anything. It's just a fun thing to do. But it was kind of fun doing a little research for it and stuff too, because I guess altogether I've got about 28 games. And then, looking online and realizing there's only 80 some odd games for everything altogether with the Jag CD. And I'm sitting here thinking, I've got probably a lot of the more collectible ones, because I just bought what I really liked at the time, which just luckily for me, like with the Saturn, just happened to be the rare games. So I'm kind of thinking, since I need a lot of stuff like Troy Aikman football and, shovelware like that, that it might not be that hard for me to actually get a complete Jaguar library. So I'm kind of excited to start kind of going in that direction with the collection. So we'll see how I do. Jag games are not easy to find anywhere local, so you almost have to buy everything online anymore, which sucks, but that's the nature of the beast anymore. But like I said, these are the Jaguar games that I own. They're not the top 10 of all time. They're not counting the current development, indie development, and homebrew and all that stuff. It's just the games I own, almost all of these, with the exception of maybe 05, because I really can't remember where I bought it. I got it at local shops and stuff, so. But yeah, it's really fun. You should definitely look into it. So, I'm going to go ahead and start off with my top 10. So, number 10 here is a game that plays a lot like Lemmings, if you ever played it. Where you had the little guys and they just start walking to the edge of the earth, and then you give them like different tasks, like, build a ladder or whatnot. And that is Dino Dudes. Now, what's interesting about this game is you start off with some cavemen. Know how well this will come in. But basically, you're given a task like get to the end of the level or go down all the way or whatever. And so you have these cavemen, and then you can give them functions. Like one of them will stand there and let somebody else climb on top of them like a ladder. This one will chuck a spear, that sort of thing. And then you have to kind of cooperate. And like for example, if you have a spear, if you throw it, you lose it. And then you have to go pick it up again. So if you throw it over a pit, if there's nobody on the other side of the pit, you're done. There's no way to recover the spear. So it's a great puzzle game. It plays really well. I had a lot of fun with it. It's on cartridge. But that is my number 10. Very fun game. Now, the next on my list actually might be kind of surprising. This is actually even on the list. It was one of the packing games for the Jaguar CD. Which actually, if you watch the 3DO repair video, I think I may have mentioned my TurboGrafx CD and my Jag CD quit working. Well, we lived in a trailer, and there was a lot of humidity in the trailer. It's just the air conditioner, just the way it was set up, just could not get the house at a stable, like, humidity, temperature, and stuff. And we've been in the house for quite a while now, and when I started doing the research for this and playing games, I got the CD out, and I'm like, well, screw it, I might as well try it. It was working. I'm like, yay! So I got to play all my Jag CD games, I got to play all my cartridges, so I can add, they're all in the list. I was thrilled that it was working. It was a little quirky, but I think it was always a little quirky, but it works. So my next one is VidGrid. Now, this is basically one of those puzzle games, you know, where you've got the squares and one's missing and you shuffle them around like this to put it together. And then sometimes they're upside down. But what's so cool about it is that each grid of the each square of the puzzle is the music video that's playing. So like we were watching an Aerosmith video, and the screen might be broken up into 9 squares and they're mixed up. So each part of the video is playing in a different spot on the screen and it's all out of order. And then you've got till the end of the song to get everything into place. And then of course as you play along, you know, more tile, some are upside down, some are not. They start rotating left and right. It gets kind of difficult, but you know, most of the songs on here are pretty good. I mean, you've got Metallica, Soundgarden, Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jimi Hendrix. You know, you've got a lot of variety. Van Halen. The only downside is, you know, if you play this for like, say, 2 hours straight, you've heard the same like 8 songs or whatever is on here, like, you know, for 2 hours straight. So it does get a little old long-term play, but just sitting as a fun puzzle game, it's very good. So it's one I would definitely recommend if you have the Jag CD. I mean, you know, it was originally the pack-in game with it because it was VidGrid, what was it, Blue Lightning, and the Mist demo. The original pack-ins for the Jag CD. So, you know, if you're lucky and you got this, it was a gem right there in the box. So my next game here, which is what, number 8, is a classic game that's been on several systems, but you know, it's just, like I said, of the Jaguar games I have, and that is Flashback. And it's funny, it still has its original Babbage's price tag on there. So there you go. Back in the day, this was $60. And if you haven't played it, it's kind of a side scroller. It's kind of like a Prince of Persia, animated really well. You kind of wake up on an alien planet, not really knowing what's going on. You just pick up a gun and you're like, what the heck? And then you just got to go through various levels. It's kind of like Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, you know, on the PS1, where it's like the static rendered backgrounds and you're walking, you drop down a level and you have this puzzle, and sometimes you just have to run, shoot, jump, run, shoot, duck, you know, in this pattern to get through the section. A lot like that. A really fun, cool game. I highly recommend it. And that's Flashback. Now, my next couple games are for the Jag CD. They're both really fun. I chose them over the first game. They're both like kind of upgrade sequels. Just because I think the graphics, sound, and everything are a lot better with the Jag CD. So, just wanted to mention that. You know, I know these are CD games. These are probably the harder ones to get now because Jag CDs are rare. Everything like that. But I'm just putting it all together. And so, my next pick is Battlemorph, which is the upgrade / sequel to Cybermorph. Incredibly cool game. You're pretty much flying a ship, going through the level, you know, blowing up aliens, flying over the landscape, taking out trains and all sorts of stuff, doing whatever the objective is. The same little bald lady's in the corner going, "Where did you learn how to fly?" You know, she's still there, but it's fun. You got lots of different weapons, different scenarios and stuff you got to do. Very cool. A good upgrade to the original, so I definitely recommend it. The next game I have is exactly the same thing. It's just better than the original. And that's Hover Strike Unconquered Lands for the Jag CD. Basically, in this game, you're driving a hover tank. Kind of like, what was that old game series? Stellar 7, I think? Kind of like Stellar 7, or, you know, kicking it old school, if you remember it, Arctic Fox, or maybe even a little bit like Battlezone. So you're flying over this alien landscape. Basically, these aliens come in, decide they're going to do all this stuff, and their defenses are so good that if the fleet went in, they'd get decimated, but they can sneak in one small ship that can drop off one specialized tank to try and take out the enemies from the inside, and that's pretty much your job. So it's very cool, fast-paced, kind of tank combat. Very cool. Shows off some of the capabilities, of the Jag. If you can get a game program good for it, But that's my next pick. Let's see, what was that number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was number 6, I guess. I didn't think to write down the list with numbers on it, so kind of playing it by ear a little bit. The next game is almost the same kind of game to Hover Strike. I have to admit, it's a tank kind of sled combat game, and I'll be honest with you, the graphics are worse than Hover Strike. I have to be honest with you. Graphically, it is not as good as Hover Strike, but for whatever reason, I just have more fun with it. I don't know why, but it is iWar. Basically, you're this hover tank thing, right? But instead of being out in an alien base on some planet, you're in a computer system like a mainframe. So it's more like Tron. You're in there doing these objectives, trying to destroy mainframes and all that stuff. Now, I don't know how well the graphics come across here in the box shots, but you can kind of... I think Hover Strike was a little too dull, but see, it's got 2-player multiplayer. Very fun. I know the graphics are bad, but it's just, it's what you like, right? And for me, iWar is a more fun game. More fun. Is more fun to play than Hover Strike. So that's why it's next on the list. So 2, 3, 4. So we're up to the top 4. So that was the 5th game. So this is probably where I'll surprise a few people where this one's placing, because this is commonly considered the best Atari Jaguar game. But on my list, it's number 4, and that is Tempest 2000. Now, if you've never played Tempest, basically you've got like rails, I guess. Like, remember like Gyros, where you go around in a circle and you're shooting out the aliens in the center of this like funnel? Tempest is the same way, except instead of a funnel, sometimes it'll be like a W or a weird shapes or a square, and you're scrolling around the outside while aliens and whatnot are coming up at you. We'll get a look here. It's an amazing game, fun, fast shooter. I mean, it's probably one of the best shooters on the Jaguar, no doubt. Incredibly fun game, but it's an arcade game, So I mean, you sit there and you blow up the same aliens over and over and over, and it's insanely fun. I'm not saying it's not. It's insanely good. It just doesn't hold your attention for a long period of time, or at least it doesn't for me. So that brings me to the top 3 Atari Jaguar games. Now, these 3 are amazing games. Definitely, if you have a Jaguar, if you have a Jaguar CD, you have to own them. Just period. You have to. So, number 3, and this, despite what the box looks like, is actually a CD game. And we're talking Iron Soldier 2, which if you look down here, I don't know if it'll show, actually has a little CD sticker they added to it, because this is actually a cartridge box. And basically, just like the first, or actually just like Hover Strike and just like Battle Morph, this is just a reworked, upgraded improvement over the original Iron Soldier. And essentially, it's a mech combat game. It pretty much, as you're playing the game, your view is through your cockpit, and you're going through a city, blowing up tanks, aircraft, other mechs, fulfilling missions. You have several weapons. The gamepad really comes in handy here because you got those extra buttons to toggle weapons and stuff like that. The controls work really well. A, B, and C are always backwards on the Jag controller. I always have to look at it. It's like B fires. A, if you push up with A, then you start walking forward. You push back with A, you go backwards. It's pretty simple controls, really, for a 3-button controller with the gamepad. or the number pad at the bottom, it works really well. Kind of shows what the Jaguar controller could have been, you know, if more games had taken use of it. You know, like simulators, you know, like on the PC, you've got a 101 button controller essentially with the keyboard. So you can put up your landing gear, you can do this, you can do all these cool things. But in a game system, you've got like 6 or 9 buttons, you know. And you just can't simulate everything, where 3 buttons plus this other 10 or 12 buttons, you know, it would have helped a lot in some games. But, well, maybe, you know, so there's some homebrew that takes advantage of it. But Iron Soldier 2 on Jag CD. Now, it does have a cartridge version also. I've not played the cartridge version, obviously. I've got the CD version. But I highly recommend it if you can get a hold of it. And that is number 3. Now, number 2 is probably another surprise, because this is another one that people always talk about when you talk the Jaguar. Like one of the games you have to have. And probably would be surprising that it's not my number 1, but for me there can only be only one number 1. But number 2 is Alien vs. Predator, which is a first-person shooter. This is, I really think, the game that kicked this trend off in games, because it's a first-person shooter, it's on a space station, you can play as the aliens, the Predators, or the Colonial Marines. It's a brilliant game, and I think it's the first shooter that really had this 3-way kind of plot thing built into it that a lot of Aliens games always do now. For the time, the graphics were amazing. You know, it plays really well. I mean, the only downside to it really is that the map, it doesn't save the map. So like if you're on level 1 of the base and you map everything out and you finish it and you go down to level 2, if for any reason whatsoever you have to go back to first level, which can happen, you know, because you're trying to escape the base, you have to get to your escape pod and stuff. So sometimes they tell you, oh, you know what, there's a computer on level 1 you got to go back to. When you go back to that level, even though you've already mapped it out, your map's gone when you get there, which is annoying, but not game breaking, you know. The levels, I mean, it's on a cartridge, so I mean the levels aren't like obscene, but you know, it's an annoyance. But it's very cool. And then of course when you get deeper into the bowels of the ship, the aliens have been taking it over, so it all turns into like alien looking stuff. One of the cool features I always found on this game is that when you play the Predator, of course you can turn invisible, you can cloak. They actually built it into the game where you can turn on the Predator vision so you can see like infrared, but you have like 4 or 5 you can go through, so everything turns all these funky colors as you go whoosh, 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 and looking at stuff. So very cool game. If you have a Jaguar, you owe it to yourself to get Alien vs. Predator. And that's my number 2 game. So this brings me to my number 1 game. And this is the way I look at it, because I just love this game. And basically, when you get a Jaguar, you come for Alien vs. Predator, but you stay for Rayman. Now, I'm sure everyone's familiar with Rayman, the 2D side-scroller from Ubisoft. You know, you're the little guy with no arms and no legs, just hands that float in the air. Incredibly good game. Really fun. Beautiful, beautiful game. I mean, really just an incredibly animated, hand-drawn game. Beautiful. And from what I understand, this is what the system was originally intended for, and then it was ported to other systems, like the PS1. So, I remember back in the day, I had the Jaguar and I had the Saturn, because I was really not into the PS1 at the time. So I had Rayman on this, and I was raving, you know, it was an awesome game. And my friend got the PS1 version, which is just as beautiful on the PS1 from what I remember. But as we were kind of playing around with it, we realized there were differences in it. Like, for example, I'd be on a level where there'd be kind of like this hill, and I would just walk down it. Where on his version, there'd be that hill, and as soon as you touched it, you were like slalom sliding down it, just like really fast, and had to try and dodge all this crap. That in my version, I was walking down and could deal with a little easier. Which, I don't know, may make the Jag version easier than the PS1 version, I would assume. But it's a beautiful game. It looks gorgeous on the system. I think actually Luke Morse just did a video on Rayman not too long ago. You know, I don't really have the setup here to capture video other than doing something like this right now. So hopefully one of these top 10s I'll do, or maybe I'll redo one of these someday. I'll see if I can get captured video instead of just showing you pictures off the box. But yeah, Rayman is my #1 game for the Jaguar. Anybody who owns a Jaguar needs to own Rayman. So that's my top 10 for the system. I do have a couple honorable mentions that are kind of, you know, fun games. They just, when I really kind of sat and thought about it, they just were missing that certain something that really makes them like top 10, you know. One of them is what's playing right here, 05, which is really kind of a fun, like, space fighter shooter, kind of. But it's kind of weird, because, like, you may have seen it on the video if it shows it, but you got, like, a fighter craft that just, like, sits here. And then the aliens are coming at you, kind of like old Star Raider style. And then your ship, you angle and you can bank and weave and shoot at them. But it's kind of weird how it plays, because it almost feels like you're on a turret, you know, and you're just shooting at them. Which is fun. It's fun shooting at aliens and all that stuff. It just, you know, not top 10 material. But it's a fun game. If you had a chance to get 05, I would recommend it. But, you know, there are better games, I guess, is a good way to say it. Another of my top honorable mentions here is another puzzle game, Flip Out. Now, Flip Out's cool because it's like there's a section of tiles on the ground, and what happens is they're all flipping in the air. So, like, say I put in the top left tile, then it flips up the tile that was there, and then I click on another spot, and then that tile flips up in the air, and the one that came from that corner goes into this side while this one's in the air, and then I have to pick another one to keep them flipping. If that one that's flipping up hits the ground and there's nothing else in the air, they all crash and I lose. So after a while, you're like flipping one up in the air and kind of throwing around, you know, trying to get around. And then there's these little like alien guys that show up and try and like knock over your tiles or stand on them so they don't flip as high, and stuff like that. That makes it, you know, kind of annoying, but fun game. But just a little, it's on cartridge, and it's just almost feels like it's got CD load time sometimes. It's just slow to get to the next puzzle after you solve it. It's slow to get things moving. And just because of that, it just kind of knocked it out of the top 10. It's definitely a fun game. Probably definitely top 20. Just, you know, it's just a little something that throws it out. And then my last honorable mention is probably a game that a lot of people would say would be one of the reasons to have a Jaguar, probably. Or at least I would think, but I don't know. But it is Defender 2000. Now I've got Defender 2000 and Missile Command 3D. They both kind of suffer from the same problem. And basically what they did is they took Defender and they upgraded it with graphics and power-ups and pretties and all that stuff. Which, you know, is fine. You know, I don't mind them upgrade the classics. But when I stopped and played them, because it comes with, I think, Defender 2000, Defender Plus, and then Defender Arcade, and it actually has Pong on it, believe it or not. When it comes up, it gives the option to play Pong as well. The problem I really found with it is that Defender Plus is okay. Defender 2000 is alright. And the original Defender, you know, it's almost an arcade perfect port, is awesome. So it's kind of like an upgraded Defender, where all you end up doing is playing the original Defender because it's the better game. You know, and it's like it's kind of cool because I love having like an arcade Defender on an authentic Atari system and all that stuff, you know. But it kind of makes the whole package just kind of go a little flat, you know, because it's like, man, you wasted all this time upgrading these two games, and then I only play the original because it's better still. It's kind of sad, but that's the way it is sometimes. Missile Command 3D is kind of the same thing, you know. It's the original Missile Command's awesome. Missile Command 3D's kind of cool because you're like an underground city, kind of like the old Atlantis, I think it was, on the 2600. You know, and you're looking up, and the ships and stuff are sailing across, and they're dropping depth charges and bombs down, and you're shooting up to stop them, which was a really cool spin on it. And I hear that, you know, if you have one of like the two prototypes of like the 3D headset that Atari was making, it actually works with Missile Command 3D, which probably would be really cool to play, but, you know, what are the chances of ever getting one of those, right? So, but that's my list. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm having a lot of fun doing these. If you have the time or the chance, I recommend doing something like this because it's just fun getting out the old stuff and just playing, you know. Tonight is the Jaguar night. I'm doing research for a video, you know, so I definitely recommend it. You know, if you got Jaguar games, if something you think should be something I should own or should have made it on the list, let me know. I'd love to know what kind of, you know, other Jag games are out there that would be quality games to get. Yeah, so I think I'm going to end it there. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back with another video soon. Thanks.